The advice and opinions expressed by Dr. 𝗟𝗓𝗃𝗍 and her guests are meant solely as suggestion and should not be in any way construed as child-specific advice.
Dr. Doreen 𝗟𝗓𝗃𝗍 is the
Dr. Doreen is an expert in autism.
Doreen 𝗟𝗓𝗃𝗍.
Dr. 𝗟𝗓𝗃𝗍.
Dr. Doreen 𝗟𝗓𝗃𝗍.
Dr. Doreen 𝗟𝗓𝗃𝗍 is a visionary in the field of autism. Now you can ask her questions on Ask Dr. Doreen. Autism Journey with Elijah says, we're still looking for ABA therapy, a good one in fact. Our insurance doesn't cover many options when it comes to ABA. Let's talk about that. And we will be switching insurance at the end of the year. Anyhow, choosing an ABA therapist. What should we look for in a good therapist for our son? And how do we know what is a good fit and will avoid meltdowns? Okay, now we're going to talk about that. Is it inevitable? My son attaches extremely easy, and switching therapists several times, he has issues adjusting if changing posts keeps happening. I think there's a lot of turnover with therapists, so
Yes.
a lot there to talk about.
There's like 5 different things in
Yes.
that one paragraph to talk about.
Yes.
First of all, and I think you're in California.
No.
We're
Arizona.
You're in Arizona, and there's really good coverage for Arizona
Yes,
in
there is.
Arizona, and there's actually a few really good organizations in Arizona.
I just got turned on to a new school in Arizona
Okay,
too.
there you
so
go.
There we are. Yeah.
So reach out to us and let's talk. You should have coverage. Medicaid covers it. So it's not even about your insurance. You have coverage in Arizona.
Yeah.
And you should have good therapy happening for Elijah right now. So
Yeah.
period, that's that. And I will agree that the older our kids get, the harder it becomes to get ABA, because that's a bad thing that has happened, where a lot of providers of ABA have come to the realization that insurance companies give them a harder and harder time with funding as the child is older than 8. The older the child gets, it becomes harder to get any kind of authorization for therapy, although the law says you can have ABA no matter what age you are. So a lot of providers, by choice, have decided not to fight, and they've decided to just provide services for very young children. That is not okay, because our kids who get older also need this type of intervention. So you definitely have access. We need to figure out how to help you to get that access. Choosing a good ABA therapist, there's like 1,000 things I can say about that, because every team has to have different qualifications. It's not, if I wanted to try to like reduce this down to a quick answer, I'd say you want people who see your child as an individual. So they're not trying to do what they did with the last child. Like, every child is different, and you want to make sure that your team, and by the way, folks, like, there's 2 sets of clinicians. One is the behavior technicians. So that's the army of individuals who actually works directly with your child. And then there's a board certified behavior analyst, or master's level or doctoral level person, who is the supervisor. And that supervisor does some direct work with your child, but their main job is to write out the overall program for your child, and their main job is to make sure those behavior technicians are doing a good job. So, and they all follow the same procedures and the same protocols and training and all that, but the person at the top is designing the program and helping others implement it. The people on the team are the implementers. They're both important for different reasons. That BCBA, who's the supervisor, needs to really listen to you, really understand what you want for your child, really discuss with you what they think is important for your child, so that you feel like you're part of the team, and so that you and that person can come to a conclusion as to what your goals are for the next month, the next 6 months, next year, your child's life. All of that has to be in discussion with your BCBA. The BCBA has to be very good at training others, because their point is they have to be very dependable. They have to be able to be a good leader, because you have anywhere between 2 to 5, 6 people on your team, and they have to be able to keep the team cohesive, consistent, doing the same things, happy with each other, working well together. All of that is very, very important. Everyone needs to know the principles of ABA. They all need to know how to react and be consistent, exactly the same. If your child has a tantrum or, lashes out or something, consistency is one of the most important things. They all have to follow a decent curriculum. Different people have different curricula. I don't like it when I go in and I observe ABA teams and all they're working on is teaching the child to do his alphabet. That's not enough for ABA. It's part of what we teach, but it's not the only thing, because they have to have a broad agenda. So we're teaching things that are language, social behaviors, cognitive behaviors like problem solving, perspective taking. We're teaching things that are like executive functioning skills, so making decisions about choices, knowing how to plan something, all of those types of skills, motor, adaptive skills like daily living, and academic. I mean, there's a huge array of things that we teach in ABA, and you just want to make sure that if you have the expertise of a behavioral person, you're hitting all the right content, right? You don't want to be focused on just teaching someone ABCs when really what they need to learn is how to vocalize their needs instead of hitting someone, right? As an example. So those are some examples. There's a lot more. I mean, ABA therapists need to be open to whatever else you're doing. If it's medical, you have to make sure that they're paying attention to your child's other needs. Like, is your child sleeping enough? Is your child having a reaction to something in their diet? If you have the child on some form of diet, they have to be respectful of that. So, there's a lot of stuff that goes into what produces a good ABA team. There was one other, then the biggest part is, how do we avoid meltdowns? You're not going to avoid them. You're just not going to avoid them, because the point where let's say a child has figured out, and our kids are smart, so let's say a child has realized that every time I don't want to go to school, I will hit and have a full meltdown here. And then as parents have now realized, oh my God, I better not push this. If he doesn't want to go to school, I really want to avoid that massive tantrum in the morning, so I'm just not going to force him. Then someone comes along, an ABA therapist, and says, no, we have to take him to school. It is just what it is. We have to do this. We're going to do it in transitional phases. We're going to do it gradually. We're going to heavily reward him. But if he has a meltdown, we're just going to work through it. We're going to ignore it. We're going to put it on extinction, because that's not a good way to communicate. The meltdown's going to happen. It's going to happen, because that's what your child has learned is effective. It'll take a little while before your child learns the meltdowns don't matter. And then that they will stop. And then your child will start to communicate in more acceptable ways. So don't think about how do I avoid the meltdown. If you have a good team, don't worry, because there will be meltdowns for 5 or 6 months, and then there won't be anymore.
Yeah, and I think a good team is going to help you to realize, because we panic when some degree of emotional when a meltdown.
It's so emotional when a child has a tantrum. It's so hard.
And what your good ABA team will teach you is not to panic, and how to stay productive.
Correct.
And how to, they're allowed to have their feelings. You're just not going to reward it.
Exactly.
Is all. So it's a really fine thing. But I would say to you too, to the last part about the changing therapists, I'm going to evoke 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏 for a second.
Yes.
That I hope in all of your lives you have somebody who walks into your lives that gets you and gets your kid and can help your kid learn so much, and that you have that happen. Because we certainly did. We had 𝗲𝗏𝗏𝗏, and once he came in, and it was like the lights came on, and I was just so filled with hope that I never wanted to let Peter go anywhere else.
Yeah.
I wanted him to move into our little two-bedroom condo. And I was like, we don't need anybody else. Please stop sending other people. Just send Peter, because Peter gets me. He gets my kid. My kid learns. Yep. Everything's moving along well. Let's just do this. Don't mess with that. And Peter was the one who said to me, oh, but no, that's not how this works. He said, because we're not preparing your son to go out into the world with him.
Yes.
That's not what we're preparing him for. We're preparing him for the world. And someday, and this is exactly what he said to me, someday he's going to go to 5th grade and the 5th grade science teacher is going to call in sick. And the person that they're going to send is a substitute who does not know your son, does not know the ABA, does not know about autism, doesn't really even know about science. And we're preparing for him to be successful on that day. Which means that a whole lot of people are going to have to come through here. And they are all of them are going to be more experienced than that science teacher on that day. Some of them are going to have more experience than others, but all of them are going to be critical to helping him to get to the point where he can have the world. And he would say to me, we're preparing him for the world, not to stay at home with me. And so, yes, of course, your son attaches himself to somebody, and that's wonderful. And those people, you're going to have to make your peace with. Those people are going to come in and out of your lives. And you're going to love them, and then they're going to leave. And it's going to happen, and it's going to be emotional. Make your peace with it now and welcome them for the season that they're there. And wish them well as they go and say wonderful things about them when they leave. But that is going to happen, and it is for the good of your child.
Absolutely. Very well said. It's called generalization, and it's really important.
I do want to acknowledge Anna is with us, and Anna said, I had the same thought about my son being able to learn. I've seen my son grow so much since we started ABA. We have learned how to communicate and how to listen to him his way. He's learning that his voice matters via oral or PECS. I'm very sad we missed 2 years via COVID, but I want my son to be able to function without me.
Fantastic.
Yes, amen.
Fantastic.
I want to say hello to Elizabeth. R said, and we're going to get to your question at the beginning of the show that came. R said, no child wants to be not to be able to be heard and communicate. I think that that's absolutely true. Okay. Blue Eyes wants to know what we think of Christina Adams and her book with Camel Milk. I'm a huge fan of Christina Adams. I want to really encourage you not only to read the Camel book, but read her first book called A Real Boy, because it was my Bible. It's how I found my way to this woman.
So many people love that book. It's a very, very well written. Christina is very eloquent, by the way, and she has really some very good books, and I do encourage you to read them.
Yes, absolutely. If you found anything helpful in this video, please give us a like. In fact, make sure that you smash that subscribe button on YouTube and give us a like on Facebook. You can also follow us on Twitter and Instagram for important updates. And please download our free podcast wherever you get your podcasts. See you next time. Until then, give your kiddos a hug from me and one for you too. Bye-bye for now. To subscribe, click here. And if you'd like to check out some more of our videos, click here.